Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. A little bit louder. Anything better there? Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Still low. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Talking. I'm testing 1 2 3. A B C D E F G. Testing. Talking right now. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Check, check, testing, testing. Check, check, testing, testing.
Testing 1 2 1 2 RX 37 check 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4.
How we doing, guys?
All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Audi Field. For those on Zoom, thank you for joining as well. We are joined by General Manager and Chief Soccer Officer Alan Kai and Head Coach Troy Lesesne. We'll be moderating the press conference both here and online. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. We'll call on you, shout your question out. Please direct it to one of the individuals on stage here, and we'll just go in an orderly fashion from there. We'll be able to distribute this full press conference afterwards as well for those who are curious. We'll go ahead and take questions right now. So if you have a question in the room, raise your hand, please, and we'll jump right in. Start with Mario.
Thank you. First off, welcome to Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
My first question is for Ali. I just wanted to know, with the previous regime under Dave Casper, being president of soccer operations, there was a lot of spending on players. Will you facilitate the same for Troy in building in the construction of the roster for this season?
Yeah, no, I think it's something that we want to be a partnership, right? I can't speak for the previous regime. I know Dave is still here in some capacity, and he's helped in terms of that transition. I was talking with him this morning, and moving forward, I think what we plan to do is build the most competitive roster that we can. And I've had very good conversations with Jason and Steve. Our role right now is to assess where we are with the roster and where we want to improve it, and that will be done in tandem with Troy and myself. That's the focus. This is not an autocracy by any means. This is something that we want to have as many educated individuals around the table that we want to bring good players to DC for the future as well. And I know there's been a lot of good players here in the past, but our focus is on moving forward and bringing good players in that'll help the club.
Yep.
William from the Portugal. Welcome, coach. How do you feel after getting the new responsibility? After 2 seasons, the team not qualified for the playoff?
Again, it's one of those, you can't really talk about the previous regime. There's been a lot of change. What I can say is, in my experience, being at a previous club in Nashville, the playoffs was the benchmark for success. You need to try and focus on getting into the playoffs, and then obviously whatever happens after that happens after that. But I think what we want to try and do is create a competitive roster that is sustainable for years to come, not just in the short term. We want to have it where we're successful every year.
This question are you planning is maybe a contract for the Spanish players for the team in the future, or maybe before the start of the season?
Yeah, I think that's a process that Ali and I will look into in terms of the player profiles that we want to establish, which will give us a good idea about how that will line up with our style of play, and then we can really target players that we want to add to the roster. I think that the evaluation period over the preseason is going to be very important currently for us to make sure that everyone that's in our roster currently fits exactly what we want to do moving forward. But I'm open to any profile of player as long as it fits with the style of play.
Gerardo Lopez, Cultura Sports, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
You alluded that one of the elements that drew you to this club was the city and its fans.
Mm-hmm.
Can you both speak a little bit about the city and its fan base?
When I first came here, when I was taken around the club, I was very aware of the supporters groups and the Chico stand and all that history. I've sat down with former players like Marco Echeverri, so I'm very aware of that. It's definitely something we're conscious of for sure, and it's something we want to build on, And I think we understand the history, we understand where the club has been, and that provides expectations and challenges, and these are things that motivate me for sure. I understand that success has not been too apparent in recent years, but that's part of the reason why we're here and why we want to make things better.
Yeah, this is a fantastic city. I mean, clearly this is a city that has so much to it, and I'm looking forward to just living here with my family as well, and understanding what Washington D.C. and the entire area is all about. I'd say the sports community here is really interesting for me, and I think the sports community absolutely gets behind these organizations whenever they have success, but then when they also reflect the values of the city. So understanding that and trying to really put that into place is something that is a big goal of mine and Allie's. And then lastly, more specifically to DC United, this is a club that I grew up with. So I grew up in South Carolina, and this was, the outside of the Charleston Battery, which was a club that I played for. DC United was the highest level, so at least in close proximity to where I grew up. So these players that have played here in the past that have had so much success, and then our fans have enjoyed that success, I think it's very important to me to reconnect with the players that have come here before and had so much success and created so much tradition in this club. And for the supporters, I can't wait to get engaged with them and, again, try to reflect their level of support over many, many years and try to make this thing a winner again.
Coach, a couple into DC. Have you had an opportunity to speak to any of the players? Have they reached out to you, or is there a plan to be introduced to the team?
Yeah, so I've had some exchange with them over the last few days, just letting them know who I am, introducing myself prior to the announcement coming out so that they could hear from me first. And then Monday is kind of our first gathering as a team, so we'll have some introductions there. Some of the players in the roster I've coached against the last couple seasons, so when I talk about Steve Birnbaum and Russell Knaus and Alex Bono, these guys, we've had the pleasantries of post-match interactions, but it's nice now to speak to them in the facility and get to know them a little bit better. We're going to get to know one another quite well. And I'm looking forward to getting started with them.
When you talk about introductions on a professional soccer team on MLS level, is that kind of like kindergarten, best friend at the time, and everyone says a fact about themselves, or how does that happen?
Yeah, we'll have a different engagement probably than that, but we absolutely, a big part of how we're going to start this process and come into this 2024 season is getting to know one another in a lot of different ways that a lot of it has to do with what happens on the field, but a lot of it's going to be what happens off the field as well. So there'll be a lot of different ways to engage that type of exercise.
Dennis.
Welcome both, Ali and Troy from DC United. My question would be for both of you. What is the club identity that you want to set for DC United in this league? And what are the main goals for this upcoming season?
Let me take that.
Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah, this is one of the most exciting things. I think that an identity is what everyone wants. So I think there's opportunity there, right? And that means that it's not necessarily that there hasn't been an attempt to establish an identity in the past. I think that there has been an identity at certain points in this club's history. But now, currently, as Ali mentioned, I think that's why we've both been brought in. We are going to use words like being aggressive, being creative. We're going to use words like being relentless. And these are going to start to form the fabric of our values over the course of the 2024 season. And we're going to build off of those values. And those aren't going to be, words that you see at the beginning of the year and then you never hear from them again. This is what's going to shape us every single day and really drive a lot of our decision making for those that can match up with those values and match up with that identity. And if you don't, then, this is DC United is not the place for you. We want to really define what it means to be United as part of DC United.
We'll take one on Zoom. For Troy, I know that in the past, you had talked in your New Mexico days that have given a chance to go between coach and technical director, you preferred coaching. What was it about Allie's pitch to make DC the choice for you?
Say that one more time, sorry.
What was it about Allie's pitch to come to DC that made you come?
Well, I think I was doing more of the pitch to Ali, to be perfectly honest. Look, this is something that Ali can probably speak to more, but I mentioned this in a couple interviews, and I don't mind sharing this. I have complete self-awareness about my coaching profile. I understand, especially from some of our supporters that may not know me and may not know my coaching history. I don't have the name maybe that some other coaches have, and that's okay by me. And what I respect as we get to that question about Ali is he, one, sees what my coaching history has been. Two, there's a lot of understanding and synergy between our values and how we work and how we want to work with a club. And he's willing to put the conventional hiring process to the side and say that's a guy who's immersed himself in the game for 20 years and knows who he is as a person and as a coach. And, you know, I like someone that thinks outside of the traditional archetype of an MLS hire. And for him in his first job as a GM, I feel a lot of responsibility to go and make this thing a success. So this is a partnership, as he said, and you know, I did the selling more than Ali did the selling. DC United speaks for itself.
And I'll add to that as well. You know, when we're going through this process, I said explicitly that DC was a location of choice, and that was the case. There was a number of coaches all over the world, and you know, I think sometimes you have to assess all of these perspectives that you're looking at. What are you trying to achieve? We are trying to achieve, you know, in an MLS team, you do not get much of a reset, you know, with a new GM and a new head coach. That is a full reset. You know, we're very aware. So as I'm going through this process, I'm assessing who is the best person that I can work with on a daily basis to get better every single day. I've said that to the staff. You know, I'll say that to the players. Troy was the option for me. When I look at all the candidates, when I assess, and there were numerous candidates, we have gone through a really diligent process in terms of recruiting a head coach, and we've got the right person in Troy.
Troy, you talked about being familiar with DC United's history. Obviously, they had the championships in the early run of the franchise. Just in taking this job, how eager are you, and how much do you think about, you know, what that moment would be like to take them back that pinnacle, take them back that point where you guys are raising that trophy?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the objective. There's no doubt about that. And everyone can come in whenever they come into a new job and talk about lifting a trophy for their fan base, for their community. That is certainly something that I want to do, but I think we have a lot of work ahead of us to achieve that. So, you know, we're gonna have a very clear process in place towards achieving those results. But as it relates to the success of the club, again, Ali didn't need to sell me on anything about DC United. It's a big club. When you look at those years from 96 to 2006, roughly, there's so many MLS Cups, there's so many Supporter Shields, there's U.S. Open Cups. Virtually any trophy that was at hand, DC United captured. But it hasn't captured that in a number of years outside of the Open Cup in 2013. So to be able to lift a trophy would be a phenomenal achievement, clearly. That is the goal, but we know that there's so many steps that we have to put in place towards achieving those goals. And the players at hand too, that again we want to honor, that have played for this club. So many of those guys have reached out to me that I've had relationships over the last 20 years of my career. Bobby Convey's a great friend of mine. John Thornton's a friend of mine. You know, John Harks, and I can't wait to meet Marco Echeverri, who's in the academy. That's exciting to me, to again be leading a club that has the history and those types of players and people attached to it.
We'll go to Zoom again. It's for Ali. Come December, what would be a successful season? What are the aspirations for year one for you both?
Yeah, I mean, I think success in this league, you know, it's almost two different tournaments, right? You have a regular season, and then you have the opportunity to move towards MLS Cup. I think a successful season for us, you know, I think the benchmark always has to be the playoffs. You know, that's something I think that we have to be striving for. I think, you know, based on where this club has been over the last few years, I think we want to try and show progress every day. And I think come December, if we can focus on improvement and focus on progress through that period, I think that good things will happen. You know, we are very much, Troy and I are very aligned, and we were just actually talking about this on process versus outcome. If you do focus on the process, the outcomes will follow, and that's something that we're going to put in place as well. But yeah, you know, I think in any league, especially the MLS, you know, the playoffs is definitely something that we should be looking for sure.
One more on Zoom for Troy. In your club interview, you mentioned building a winning culture, bringing that back to the club. How do you accomplish that?
Yeah, being very clear, and this kind of goes in line with a little bit of what Ali talked about, and probably expanding on that last question, but you ask about success in year one, and then this is a component of that success. A clear club identity, really making sure that everyone in the organization, not just the first team, understands what that is, and we work towards those values every day. The environment that supports that and governs that identity is you know, the behavior and action that we will implement, and it's not just words, it's action for us. And then lastly, I think the product on the field. Clearly, the results are very important, but the product on the field has to reflect back on the values that we think are important to this community and to DC United in 2024 and beyond. That would be a successful season if we were able to put a number of those things in place, and I think that that's very much in line with that question as well.
And this is also for both of you, but just really quick, something that DC United fans should know about you.
Yeah, we want to win. You know, that's something I think that just springs to mind. Like we've had success, you know, and in a previous kind of life in Nashville, I've tasted, you know, quite a decent amount of success, and I'm hungry for that. I'm not here. I haven't moved my family. I've got 3 young boys, a wife. I haven't moved them to try and, you know, just be in DC for no reason. I'm really hungry to have a really successful period here, and I want to help try and, along with Troy, galvanize this franchise and make sure that, you know, whenever I leave and I'm gone in 3 years, 10 years, hopefully a lot longer, that we put a positive outlook on the club. And for me, that's a very good challenge, and I'm excited about it.
This is a really hyper-specific answer, probably, as it relates to DC United, but I think it's interesting. The club that I grew up with was the Charleston Battery local club. I played for them in the academy. I played for them as a professional, and then coached for them in 2014. And there was a big rivalry that existed between DC United and Charleston Battery. In the Open Cup, 1999, I was meant to go to the game at Blackbaud Stadium that I think is the infamous coffee pot match where Charleston ended up beating DC United in the Open Cup to progress, and clearly that was a successful year for DC United in '99. They won the championship that year, but I was meant to go to that game, and I ended up getting sick, and I couldn't be at that game. So I think that that's an interesting curveball, and the specific thing about me and this club and watching the club as I grew up, and supporting a club that went up against DC United in the early days.
We have time for about 2 more. We'll go to Zoom first, but if there's one more in the room, we'll take that as well. This one's for Ali. There's been some incomings and outgoings so far for the squad. As you and Troy get up to speed together, should the team expect to see some more new faces? What kind of profile player are we looking for?
Short answer is yes. You know, I think we're looking to improve the squad for sure. Now that I have Troy in the building, that is something that I think is a lot more positive because, again, we can work in partnership and assessing on positional profiles, things like that we want to improve the playing group in general. That can come in this league in various forms. But yes is the answer. We will be improving the squad. We want to bring people in that will add quality. To do that, you know, it does take a little bit of time, but we've got some time before the first game. We're going to act as swiftly as possible. And, you know, again, I think we'll see some new faces before the start of the season.
Yep, last one, Dennis.
This is for Ali. I know you're a huge believer in data analytics, and you've been using that for the recruitment. Do you also plan to use that for the performance of the players throughout the season?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I think data doesn't necessarily give you every single answer or even any specific answer. It's more a guidance on what direction you want to go in. You know, I sometimes say to the staff, it's often utilized as a North Star. And, you know, we have Caleb Shreve, who we've acquired from Orlando, who was the head of analytics there. He's been a huge part of what we've implemented already in the group. And the reality is, you know, people think data is the future. It's not. It's the present. And I think, you know, the more that we can utilize these elements to have an impact on the club as a whole, not just on the field, off the field as well, I think that is something that will really push this club to where it needs to be.
That's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.